If I'm really truthful with myself, I think I do that more than I am a good model for my kids. I was so scared as a kid that I didn't have the confidence to do that. It wasn't until I really just had to push myself and force myself to do it that I learned and I grew there. But my default mode is not to go there. My default mode is not to be the guy who's, the life of the party. I really have to remind myself that when I'm there, I need to show up, I need to own the room, because there's a lot of people that are like me too, and they just need somebody else to initiate. Somebody needs to engage in that conversation. So today we wanted to talk about modeling and being a dad, which is kind of fun because we're both subject matter experts in being a dad. It was I was thinking about it last night because when so last week we didn't get to record a podcast, and I don't remember even how far. I think we're like a couple weeks behind, which is kind of fun because then when the podcast comes out, I can't wait to listen to us, which sounds really like arrogant, but it's fun to remember what we had talked about. So, but yeah, spoke last week, so we didn't record last week. But I took Peyton with me to this event that I was speaking at, and he's 12, and he got to get up and be on the camera. They had him be the cameraman for 2 days, and people just loved him. But it was interesting. Before we went down there, we were down there for 2 days. I took both my boys, so Peyton who's 12 and then Torin who's 5, and had to walk them through. Here's how you introduce yourself. Here's how you interact with adults. Here's how you look them in the eye. And we probably practiced for a half an hour because it wasn't just like shaking a hand and kind of being like I'm going to grip your hand to death, or like the floppy fish thing. And, I went through all those things, but then also having questions and learning how to ask questions and being interested in other people, being more interested than you are interesting. And so asking questions and building rapport. And it was really fun to watch him over those 2 days because, I mean, Peyton and Moosey, they're both really outgoing kids. Like the 5-year-old, he's just a ham. So he loved the practice. He's like, yeah, let me tell you all about me. Um, but it was really neat to watch Peyton over those 2 days because you could see like that growth in him because he kept putting in the reps of meeting other adults and then asking questions. And so by the time we were done on Wednesday, by the time Wednesday night rolled around, he had shooken a lot of hands and he met a lot of people and had some great conversations. So anyway, it just made me think about how we're modeling for kids and how we're modeling for our kids specifically, and maybe some things that we've done really well and maybe some things that we've done not so well in our modeling and how we do better. So there's
That's
all
impressive.
my, yeah.
That's impressive for a 12-year-old to get up there with complete strangers and strike up conversations. I mean, you don't really see that a lot these days. I mean, and when you do see it, it's actually pretty refreshing to see kids who are that age that can hold dialogue and that can banter back and forth with an adult, and uh I get to see it a lot, because I work as a middle schooler, a middle school teacher, and I work with a lot of middle schoolers. So, when I say that it's rare, it is rare, um, because usually as an adult, as like the school counselor, whether I'm walking around the hallways, a lot of kids, head down, um, and so I'm doing a lot of initiating, right?
Yes. Right.
I'm doing a lot of modeling, what it looks like to engage with somebody. Um, and uh, yeah, I think for sure, kids that are willing to do that with adults, I think I would be willing to say that there's a correlation of success there. Uh,
Hmm. Success. How so?
because also, if that's going to be the case, right, there's there's going to be an increase skill of like self-advocacy.
Mm. Yeah.
You're struggling with a grade. Oh, I'm gonna go talk to the teacher, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do
That
I
makes sense.
how do I how do I do better? How do I get extra credit? How do I, you know, how do I be successful really, right? And that takes a little bit of skill. For myself, when I was in school, I did not have that self advocacy. Um, I just kind of was kind of like a wounded avoider sometimes, just kind of in the corner, like, or if a teacher had a question, I was that kid that was like, please do not call on me because
Not gonna go well.
like, yeah, and some of it too like I just didn't want to look foolish in front of you know my peers, but um, yeah, I think like I said, if your son is going around doing that and he's putting in reps, which is how skills are developed, whatever skill it is. I think that's really impressive and good on you for giving him the basics and all that good stuff. For myself, I have 2 kids, and um, I sometimes I get a little nervous when especially the first like couple times when they're much younger. Um, but they've seen me so much, right? We're talking about modeling. They've seen me so much when I whenever we're out and about that I'm fairly social. Uh, I I use humor a lot to engage in conversation, and I think a lot of that is just a lot of people these days have they have their guard up,
Mm,
understandably so, and I
yeah,
think humor has a lot of um, disarming qualities when it comes to having conversation with people, and I think my boys have seen that. They've also seen me shake someone's hand, look them in the eye. We've also, right, I went through those basics as a younger kid, practicing with grandpa. They don't necessarily do that with grandma,
yeah,
because they hug grandma, right?
right,
But
yeah,
with adults, even with you, whenever they're around adult friends, you look them in the eye, shake their hands, say hello, introduce yourself, right? Um, and and some of that too was me introducing my kids, right? This is Ty, this is my oldest son. He's in the 5th grade, does football, right? Just like little things about my kids so that they're always gathering information on like how to interact in the world.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. And it's obviously a super important skill. I was thinking about when you were talking about it being a success. I was like, oh yeah, it's. I listened to some podcast with Jordan Peterson, he was basically saying, as like with kids, the more that you can have them interact with adults, and the more favorable that adults look on the kids, the more opportunities will open up to them, right? Because they are enjoyable to be around. And so adults want to invest in those kids that have skills, desires, whatever, to move forward. And it was funny, even at the end of the the time, one of the guys that was speaking, he and I were speaking on a panel together, and he's a third time. I think this is his third company, so he's a software guy. So he successfully grew and exited 2 software companies, and so this is his third one that he's working on right now. Right now, really nice guy from the Seattle area. uh, Peyton went and met him afterward and just started talking. He said, "Oh yeah, you're in the aviation," because the guy's a pilot. And Peyton's like, "Yeah, I'm doing Civil Air Patrol." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I did Civil Air Patrol as a kid." He said, "Good for you." And so they just had this really cool like conversation and dialogue, realizing in that that opportunity, for example, I'm a big advocate in having my kids go and be interns places in high school, right? It's like, go learn. And so it was just kind of a cool, not that that is necessarily the door that will open, but at the same time, okay, you just built rapport with this guy. And in a couple of years, it'd be really cool if you went and worked for him as an intern at his company in doing software, or whatever. So it's just kind of interesting, like the opportunities that open up. I'm curious on the other side, because this is what I was thinking about, like the times where I've modeled kind of the not so well for my kids. So I think honestly, if I'm really truthful with myself, I think I do that more than I am a good model for my kids. because I didn't necessarily learn that. I think my parents taught me how to like shake people's hands and things like that, but I was so scared as a kid, and people that know me well know that whole story. I was so scared as a kid that I didn't have the confidence to do that. And it wasn't until I really just had to push myself and force myself to do it that I learned and I grew there. But my default mode is not to go there, right? My default mode is not to be the guy who's, the life of the party. I really have to remind myself that when I'm there, I need to show up. I need to own the room. Because there's a lot of people that are like me too, and they just need somebody else to initiate. Someone needs to engage in that conversation. And I think a lot of times my kids see me shrink back or be like, it's not that big of a deal with whatever. And yeah, there's a lot of things that aren't that big of a deal. Somebody messes up an order on my sandwich. It's like, okay, am I really gonna like freak out because I got provolone instead of pepper jack? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like there's some things I can let go, but at the same time, also that advocating for myself thing, I don't think I do that good of a job, and I don't think I model that well. So, um,
I'm curious. So when you do walk into a room, is there a way that you prepare yourself, or
it's like a great
because
question.
it was almost like you were explaining like this self talk you have in your mind.
Oh yeah, for sure. I guess so. Last Monday. So the event is Tuesday, Wednesday last week, when Peyton came with me. And it's funny that you brought that up, because Monday I was working on some project and it just wasn't working well. Like you're just working on something. It was a software thing, and I was just like, this is just driving me crazy. And I went and did sound check at the place in Eugene, and then there was a big event that was happening just for the speakers that night, and I'm just frustrated. Not at them, right? I'm just frustrated at the work that I'm trying to work on, and it just is taking forever, and it's not working. And I'm just hitting my head against the wall. Um, and going back to that default mode, my default is to be like, okay, I'm going home. Like I'm not going to stay here. I'm just going to, and then kind of having to talk myself through that and be like, that Jason, that's ridiculous. You're going to figure this out. It's not the end of the world. And, don't have bad attitude. But then, so I went to the location and I got there and I'm like parking in this parking lot by myself. And honestly, like I took this deep breath. I'm like, okay, nobody knows I'm here. And then one of the other speakers pulls up with her husband. And I was like, dang it. I'm okay. And then getting out of the car, it was just kind of this like, okay, engage. Like turn your brain on and just go engage with people. And it was funny from that conversation. Her husband, Dustin, we spent probably an hour just hanging out and talking just about life and stuff like that. And I guess pretty fitting to this conversation where as we were talking, they don't have kids yet. And they're talking, he's like, yeah, we might have kids and stuff. And I told him, dude, I was totally freaked out to have kids, to the point that I wasn't sure I was going to have kids. And I remember when it was. I was actually playing music. I was leading worship at this conference years ago. Um, and it was kind of like this Holy Spirit moment that was essentially like, "Hey, you're not that good. Like you can't screw your kids up that bad." And more of the "Do you trust me?" kind of thing. To the point that I was like, "Okay, yeah, I, you, okay, I can do this." And so even sharing with him, just the fact that it's like, yeah, you can't take the credit and you can't screw them up that bad. Like they're their own people, and so you can do the best that you can, but your life will be forever changed in a positive way if you have kids. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah,
Don't you love those Holy Spirit moments, man? It's pretty. I think you communicating with him about that is a Holy Spirit moment. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like that's really
yeah.
cool.
Like
I'm with you, dude. I listened to our rites of passage podcast, and
yeah,
we talked about that was a rite of passage for me. I felt like is becoming a dad,
yeah,
and how important that is, and remembering that, boy, ooh, I don't know if I can do this.
yeah.
uh, but I don't know, with all that stuff too. It like like I don't. It's almost, I don't want to say like you're forced, but you are. Like you're responsible for another life now,
Hmm.
and it all comes with the challenges, right? To get you better, right? If you're open and willing to um I want to say like there's some sacrifices you have to make, right? As a parent. Um and it's not like I don't want to say like it's this huge thing, um but also like sacrifices in our time. I remember um waking up with my wife in the middle of the night multiple times with both of our kids, right? Just losing sleep, working the next day. But it's challenges like that that bond you to your child, right? I still, I mean, I sometimes I look at my both of my kids, and they're they have some independence about them now. Sometimes I'm like, man, I used to have you right here in the palm of
Yeah.
my hands. And now, like, we're looking eye to eye, and or my son Reese will have like this interesting thought about something, and like it's I don't know, man. Like I don't know. I feel kind of emotional about it, and like just thinking about my kids um, when they were young, and where they're at and how far they've come along. And it it's kind of interesting that I kind of bring the emotions part up, but I because I think that's also a thing that us as parents, as fathers, like a child doesn't just learn what emotions are, right? They learn how to handle them by watching what we do, right? So, and I'm not like a huge like you know name it and like and explain it kind of deal. Um, but I think it's good for kids to understand. Um, like let's just I remember a lot of times. Let's talk about some of the bad things that not bad. I don't know how to explain that. Maybe not bad things. Things I wish I would have done better.
Hmm.
Because I'm still human, right? My kids also need to see that. They also need to see that I'm not perfect, and I have my days. But I remember high volume conversations in the car ride home from school. Whether they're like a teacher emailed me or called me, or um, they told me that they're missing homework, and boy, I'm like,
Yeah.
boom! I would, and they're telling me all this as I myself have had a rough day dealing with emotions because again I used to work with like emotionally disturbed children, and so now I'm hearing all these uh I I want like I had it to where I wanted to come home and I didn't want to hear misbehaviors from my own children. Here I am handling misbehaviors of other people's children, and how to do things better and to model to them like how to handle frustration. And here I am with my own children, like
Going
doing
off
the
the handle.
opposite, right?
Right.
Like do it. So it took me a long time. Not a long. That's not right. But it's kind of like um how you were explaining your son did things, right? It took a lot of reps to settle my recognize, right? Have some self-awareness of I know, okay, I heard it. I usually react this way, but I'm gonna be totally chill about this. And we're gonna handle this different, right? Um, so I got to the point with my kids where they came into the car, and uh I would just say, "Hey, I just want you guys to know, a long day. I'm feeling a little short right now. So if there's anything you want to tell me, that that might frustrate me, probably not a good. probably not a good time. Give me a let me go home, eat something, like veg out for about, half hour and then come tell me. And like my kids like really appreciated that, right? And so me modeling my frustration and how to handle it two different
Mm.
ways,
Dude,
right?
that's
Now
good.
now my kid now um like I've given it's almost like I've given my kids permission to to figure that out within themselves, right? Within how they deal with frustration. And um I think that it's um it's amazing. You get little serendipities in life where these things that you model in front of your kids, whether it's frustration, like just say frustration, right? um and you are you're observing um interactions with, let's just say my oldest son with his little brother, right? And then you hear the very same words that come out of your mouth spoken through your children. And
Mm.
you go, Reese, dude, I'm not having this right now. So we'll be done right now and we'll come back to it later. Cause whoa, man, you're really pissing me off. And I'm like,
Wow, that's good.
right now,
Right.
is it 100% all the time? No, but at least there's an emergency brake there. When
Yeah.
I've given my kids emergency brakes to not express their emotions, especially the tough ones, without exploding, right? And they're ultra competitive kids. And I've actually um have talked to my oldest one about this, right? He's a varsity football player. He's uh he's gone through a lot of his career, like, he's been pretty dominant. Now, like, things have caught up, right? There's other kids there that are strong, and he's getting beat. And so, one thing that I've tried to, um, uh, I guess, try to I don't know if it's a modeling thing, but it can be, um, is, like, just the kind of that self-talk, that positive self-talk when you are, um when you are going through a challenge. Just let yourself know, right? Like, hey, like I kind of gave him like a couple things when, like, in the middle of a play when maybe he didn't do so well. Hey, right? Your energy changes the game,
Mm.
right? So, like,
Yeah.
repeat to yourself, my energy changes the game, right? Violent hands, active feet, relentless finish, right? Be a playmaker. Right? Those things you can repeat to yourself so that you're handling your emotions well. And then in return, like, maybe you can teach these to other players that struggle with the same challenges of being ultra competitive and sometimes getting derailed when things don't go your way sometimes, right? You gotta talk water wings come off, man. Like, dad's not there anymore. Like, you gotta figure this out, right? So yeah, that's just modeling emotions. How about yourself, man? Like, what are some you have any stories or
Mm.
examples of modeling emotions well, and maybe modeling emotions where went a little south on you,
Yeah.
and how you recovered from it?
Sure. Yeah. The I think with Peyton right now, it's helping him. Like, I think the thing that I'm modeling is how he talks to his brother, right? Siblings. And so this just happened the other day, and you could tell like there was a visible like shift in him because I'm a pretty relaxed guy, and I can't remember what he did, but he basically said something like, "Get over here right now and do this thing." And so I turned around and I just did the exact same thing to him. And I was just like, "Peyton, get your crap done before you do anything else," and it just like got in his face about it, and he was just like, because that's not me, right? That's not my personality. And I stopped. I said, "Buddy, how'd that feel?" And he was just like, like visibly like shaken. Like, I was like, "Dude, that's how you're coming across." So yeah, I don't think you realize that you're coming across that way, but that's exactly. So I gave him a hug, and he was, he was pretty just like, "Oh no, I'm in trouble." I was like, "You're not in trouble. I just want you to." There's so many times people don't understand how they come across, and so when it's modeled, I guess the negative. That was but I've also done that when I am frustrated, where I just comprehendal. I just yell at the boys. I'm like, knock it off, and then I feel stupid after that. It's like, oh my gosh, like, what is my deal? Like, they're just being kids and they're just being noisy. And yes, I'm tired and I want them to go to bed. And why is it always bedtime when they, right? So,
Yes.
and it's just kind of a funny thing. But yeah, I think probably handling so last year, when my friend Mick passed away, and we went over to um, Washington. We were in Washington for a week and just being with his family and stuff like that. That was an interesting time because I think there's kind of this. I don't know. Maybe I'll ask you this question too. I struggle with there's a part of me, like, you go through some grief, right? One of your best friends dies randomly, or my brother or whatever, and being able to just like let myself feel that grief and really just mourn, right? And that's full on ugly cry, deep from your soul type stuff. And weighing through that, like, because then you hear people and they're just like, oh yeah, the old cowboy thing where like you don't this guy never flinches, and you're never gonna show emotion and stuff like that. It's like, you know what I mean? Because that's kind of honestly like that's more how I grew up than it's okay to cry and grieve and have emotions. So I'm still, honestly, to this day, I still struggle with what is the appropriate response and how do I model that for my kids? Because I think it's the sadness and grief and letting my kids know. So anyway, I felt like I was very intentional about it when I was there in Washington, because there was a lot of stuff that had to get done. Right. And everybody's grieving. And so part of it is adrenaline, and you just kind of hold stuff together and you just plow ahead. But then there's other times of like letting my kids see me like actually grieve and be like, this is hard and this is not fun. So I don't know. It's an interesting. It's been something I think about this week, and I can't remember why. I was listening to some podcast and they were talking about somebody's like, oh yeah, he never has emotion and things like that. I was like, okay, might be good for business because you can be like a stone cold killer, but probably
Yeah.
not good for life because.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I well, I think that, um, you know, expressing emotions without, going overboard. I kinda go back to anger. I mean, anger, frustration, anger, those are easy, man. It's easy to
Yeah,
explode, right? Um, like, I always explain it, it's kinda like a sneeze, right? It feels good when you let it out, like, "Ugh," but then it's like mess everywhere, right? Snot on everybody, right? And then now you gotta clean it up, right? So, um, yes, things happen, but it's okay to take your it's okay to take them through the full range of the emotion, right? At the end of the day, I still have to remember I'm the adult, and I'm still what my kids are seeing, they're watching, right? What my kids are seeing and watching, um, is uh, goes a long ways, right? What is the phrase? A picture says 1,000 words, right? Our actions speak loudly, right? And so, um, it, I think, for myself, right? It's okay, uh, for my kids to hear me say like, I shouldn't have raised my voice like that. And I was angry, but um, that just wasn't the right way of handling it, right? Dad, sorry. So like an apology is huge, right? Because it builds a lot of trust. It builds a lot of humility, right? Dad isn't trying to be perfect, and right, and like or like like you're saying, like having a having taking a taking showing your kid the full range of an emotion of like grief, right? Man, that whether you is some like out of the blue, you think about something and you're sad about it, right? Because it reminded you of your friend, or it reminded you of your brother or something like that, right? Like kids have to learn that um uh like being tough and being uh tender, it can coexist at the same time,
Yeah.
right? We can do both, right? And that is for us to model, because some kids don't. Okay, some kids need, they see the both ends of the spectrum, and and they need to show, we need to show like um the meat of it and how we manage through it, right? And showing them the full range. So
Yeah. No, that's really good. Yeah, there's a lot of times I think about that because yeah, I think you model that so well with your boys. The ability to screw up and say, "Guys, I'm sorry," right? Because there's so many times where people don't, right? They don't apologize for anything, and then their kids just, go, go, go. Which is like you said, it's hard because I think you're right. I think there's a lot of kids that I see that are, and adults, I guess, for that matter, that they're all tough. It's like, okay, you know that there's stuff going on inside of them, right? But they were either not allowed to show it, they weren't allowed to express frustration in a healthy way or whatever. And so they go through life and it's just this all, mess. Or the flip side where they're completely like the victim, right? And they don't know how. Because there's one thing of like, I think we've talked about it before, right? The victim mindset. Some people just have this victim mindset where they can't do anything. And some has come from trauma. Some has come from a learned behavior too, where it's just somebody just taught you that it's okay to be the victim. It's like, no, that's not okay, right? And so being able to hold both of those things is tough because, yeah, you can be tough and you have to do stuff that sucks and you have to be an all American badass at times, right? And then there's also times where that's not the appropriate response for this moment. One of my favorite, I think it was a Scottish saying, and it was that never give a sword to a man who can't dance, right? So being able to you can be a fierce warrior and at the same time like learn to love and have the softer, more uh, delicate pieces of life because we're all that, right? We're both. We have both things happening simultaneously. So
I think if we don't have that healthy, full range of emotions sometimes, but yeah, like as men, we teach a lot of like stoicism, which I think there's certainly some good things that come with it, right? You're even keeled, you're calm. Um, but I think you can. There's times when you can come off as like almost like robotic. Like, dude, are you all right? Do you feel emotions? Like uh, you know, for myself, I've always been like an emotional guy. I knew this when I was like younger. Uh, there's like this Pizza Hut commercial where it, I don't know if it was, I think it was a Pizza Hut commercial, but anyways, a kid was like uh playing baseball, and uh like he would catch the ball, and like his dad was like, "Good job, son," and I was like, "Oh man, oh gosh." But
that's
like it
awesome.
had all the emotional music behind it, and I had to like
Right.
leave the room. I was like, "What's
Yeah.
wrong with me, man? This is a commercial, like a Pizza Hut commercial." Uh, uh, like, and also that also happened too with actually in front of my boys one time. We were watching, I think it was called Home, and there's like a part in the movie where like they like joined together, and I was like, "Oh man, what are you doing, Ray?" It's a cartoon, like, but it had all the music, and like it had all the emotions. You were like invested in the characters, and like you know what I mean? And like so like my kids would like look at me, and I'm like, that's pretty sad, right? I mean, this is a pretty happy moment, huh, boys? And with like
Yeah.
a warble in my voice.
Yeah.
uh and I don't know. I think um I think that we have to be able to have good self-awareness as men and manage that well, um, and and, not suppress it, right? Like, be I think that's a skill too, learning how to manage, um, that, uh, those em yeah, learning how to manage those emotions well. I don't know, that's a skill, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So, uh, yeah, help me out with that, man.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking through it's kind of the time and place for it. Kind of the thing I was just thinking, right? Because there are times when there's times when you're hurt, times when things aren't going your way, and it'd be easy to just crawl up into a ball and cry about it. And that's not necessarily what is needed for the situation, right? Like gosh, I can't remember the name of the movie. Tears of the Sun. That's it. Have you ever seen that one? Yeah, it's old. It's like an older Bruce Willis movie. Basically, the piece of the movie is that it's somewhere in Africa, and there's Americans that are working as missionaries, and basically like this other faction or tribe or whatever is coming in and basically just like taking over, right? And so they send in this Navy SEAL unit to go extract the Americans and the British and whoever's there. And so they show up, they get there, and they tell them, "Hey, we're not leaving without these people. Like we've got kids, we've got grandmas, we're not leaving without these people." And so Bruce Willis, the main character, is like, okay, like has this stroke of conscience, I guess, and says, "Okay, we'll go back and get him." Right. And so, in order to distract him, we can't do it with helicopters. We actually have to get him through the jungle. So they start taking him through the jungle, and it gets revealed on this trip that one of the people that is in this group of 100 or whatever people is the prince that they're trying to find because he's like the heir to whatever throne or presidency or whatever it is. And so they're gonna right now they're in huge danger because he's this guy. And so at one point they get into this firefight, right? They're getting closer and closer to whatever border they're getting to, and they get into this firefight, and this prince just basically like cowers in fear, right? And he's just like shaking and crying, and the Bruce Willis character like grabs him and he looks him straight in the he's like, "Your people need you." He's like, "Cowboy the f up,"
Yeah.
and just kind of, and then you just like see on his face where he's just like, kind of okay, I got to step up into this moment, right? And there's obviously the time for that, right? And as men, it's the same thing. There's plenty of weak men, right? There's plenty of weak men and weak examples of men out there. And it's not necessarily on the battlefield, and it's not on the football field necessarily. I think there's a lot of times I feel that in, like I see with friends that I haven't had a whole lot of relationship with in the last few years, but I see kind of how they're living their life, and literally their life is about them, not in a positive way, right? It's like you have kids and you have a wife and you have responsibilities, and instead you're just kind of letting that all go to the back burner, and they're carrying a bigger load than you are. And it's kind of at the same time, it's like, okay, you need to cowboy up. Like you need to go, right? There's that side of it as well, where it's like we've got to carry a load and we've got to push and we've got to be strong. But I don't think that's modeled very well either in society, because even the models that are out there, I mean, if we just look at football, for example, like how many examples of, I mean, they're probably fantastic athletes, but do you want them being the role model for everything else, like every other aspects of their life for your kids? Maybe, probably not though. Most of them probably not. Most of them are probably not great role models in life. They're probably amazing athletes, but not great role models. So I don't know where I was going with that. It just kind of felt like it's interesting.
I mean, obviously there's a handful, and I think that that's also something to consider too, as far as like who do you choose to who do you choose as a model, as a role model is pretty
Mhm.
important too, um as a how you teach that to kids? I think, man, I work with, um, like a couple coaches that are, just like just good coaches, just good guys that, like my son's, like O-line coach, uh, like I can see how much, uh, how much he believes in my son's skills and willingness to model um like being a good leader for my kid. He's taken he's taken a lot of good leadership from his O-line coach recently, actually a lot, like,
That's cool.
like I find that, being a coach, it's not just a position, right? It's kind of well, it is a position, right? You're in a position of influence when you're a coach, right? Um you're leading other young minds to excel in, whatever they're doing, right? And being a coach is so much more than teaching the X's and O's. It's teaching about leadership and teaching about how you manage relationships. It's it puts you in the fire a lot because you're in the grind. Like, you're tired, right? Like, you have sometimes your athletes come in and their attitude sucks, um, or they're just lollygagging around, they're going through the motions. How do you coach out of that? Right? How do you coach them out of that? A good, like, coaches, um, I think that is, uh, something coaches, um, need to model for their athletes, um, and help them manage their way out of it, right? Just good coaches pull the best out of you in whatever situation. Um, so, but I also, like I said, I also had coaches that were really good on the football field, and you wanted to run through a brick wall for them. But you know, but made poor choices outside, right? So, uh, in a way, there's some uh, there's like an element of like that buffet thing that I was talking to you about, right? Like, uh, take the good stuff that you're learning from coaches, um, and yeah, and run with it, right? But just remember that, just we all have our faults in life, right? We're all human beings, and we all got sin in us, and uh, I think just what is the thought? What is the verse where it talks about, like, you know, um, think on things that are true, think on things that are pure, that are exceptional and worthy of praise, right? Like, I think a lot of times I have to remind myself when it comes to modeling or just having good thoughts, think on those things for others, and I think it it when you think on those positive things about others, I think that's what pulls the positive
Mm,
out,
that's
right?
good. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if I'm thinking that, uh, there's inevitably going to be some athletes, some kids that just, like, they don't have the athletic ability, but gosh, they work hard,
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
right?
Yep.
I'm gonna focus on that strength for them, like, yeah, So, anyways, I was thinking about just that, how we need to be, um, just aware and mindful about, um, the models that we choose to mimic and what we choose to take from them. And
Yeah. No, that's good. And I loved just the thing that you said about like the kind of the posture that we have towards our kids too. I think everybody like I think most people genuinely do love their kids, right? But n- I don't necessarily like every moment that I'm in with my kids. So I think like letting my kids know that I love them, but also that needs to come through in my actions and my temperament. Because I find myself there's a lot of times where I'm like I was joking about bedtime, but that's the struggle for me. I'm done. Like I run hard during the daytime. By the time nighttime comes around, there's a lot of times where I just have to remind myself like, okay, this is fun. Like last night was a good example. Like they were just driving me crazy. They were, dawdling, getting to bed. And then I just realized like reading a book, I'm like, okay, he's 5. Like just enjoy being 5 right now, and the wonder and the excitement and the fun. And that's how I need to show up. Anyway, man.
Yeah, it's funny how you say you keep bringing up bedtime. It kind of is, man. Sometimes, like right before bed, right before the end of the day, things get hard when you know it's the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my wife was checking my kids' grades on like their the school program where you can check grades and stuff like that. You know, I can see her start to like You can see her start to seethe with some of the missing assignment because my wife is right. She's been in her dad was a principal, right? So her standards are high, which they
Good.
should be, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
but like I got to deal with it. And my son's coughing right now. He's not feeling 100%. I'm talking
Man.
about my oldest son right now.
Yeah.
Um, and right, it's like 10:30, and she's got it all in her mind, like, "Here you are telling us you're not feeling good. It's 10:30, you're still, like, dinking around downstairs. I don't know what you're doing." And I was just like, "Oh gosh, alright." And so 2021 me, man, I'm ready. Like, as soon as I see my son's face, I'm in it, like, "What the heck, man? Now I gotta deal with mom when like, this is your fault." No, I don't say that, but like I am, right? I'm gearing up, right? I'm gearing up. Like I say, I may have ran through that scenario in
Yeah.
my head, and I go, "Nope, we're gonna put that in the back seat. We're not gonna do that tonight."
That's
Um,
so funny.
uh, so like, yeah, so I see him walking. I hear him walking up the stairs. It's like all the lights are off except for like our back like kitchen lights, and like as soon as I see his head, like we like lock eyes already, and I'm like, because I've been texting. I was like, dude, it's bedtime, right? Um, and he goes, "What's up, Dad?" I was like, "Oh yeah, what is up, bud?" About I just got out of the shower. I was like, dude, like these habits got to change.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're right. Repeating what my wife, like communicating what my wife wanted to communicate to him. Even my own frustration about, you got to get to bed a little later. Now it's not, it's 10:30, like super late. No, but
Late enough.
it's late enough, right?
Yeah.
You got stuff you got to do. You got a long day ahead of you. You got practice. You got school. Sleep is really important, right? These are the things I'm telling him, right? Uh, And then, like, I kinda, like, I sneaked that last one in. I said, "Man, now I gotta deal with your mom," right? Like, she's really upset. "What's up? What's going on with these missing assignments?" He's like, what?" I was like, "Ha, ha, ha. Ha. What do you mean, what?" He's like, "Oh, he's talking about the social studies." I'm like, All of it, bro. All of it. Get on top of it, dude." And I told him, and I in a very calm way, I said, "Listen, this is not gonna happen. This is not happening. There's been a couple times already where I've had to redirect you about this situation. So you must not think I'm serious. Hear me now. The next time you're behind on your work or you're going to bed at 10:45, 11 o'clock at night, and you want to go for it. You want to like raid the fridge right before bed. Um, and not gonna happen. And what were you doing, by the way? Because we ate dinner at 8:30. You went downstairs at 9. What were you doing for an hour and a half? So, oh, because I know I wasn't showering, and like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I was playing video games. I was like, oh, okay. I know what to take from you next time. Yep, you're gonna feel the discomfort of making poor choices like that a little more than being sick and all this other stuff. Yeah, like we're gonna up the ante for you. Your
Yeah.
consequences be a little bit more, and it might that'll be it. Like your video games are gone. They're upstairs. They're out of your room, right? Whatever. So like, uh, and you know what's funny, man? Like, I can hear him like, which normal teenage thing to do. Um, but then when he like calms down, uh, he'll like, uh, he'll start to walk down the stairs and be like, "Night, Dad. Love you. Uh, yeah, I'll get all that stuff done tomorrow. Thank you. Love you too, son. Good night." My son does that. My oldest one especially. My youngest one, he's pretty savvy, man. The dude likes to fly under the radar, but I really think that he sees his brother take the hits, and he's like, "Ah, I'm good." I ain't trying to do that.
Check. I'm gonna get that done. Yeah.
Uh, but he certainly has his times. Like I told you before, right? He sometimes he likes to cut corners. He's really savvy about it, and smart at where he can cut corners. But he's gotta know, um, when he gets caught. I certainly let him know about like, man, we can't do man. I hear my dad coming out of me sometimes. My dad used to say, like I say cutting corners, my dad says, "Stop half-assing it."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and I would say that, right? I'm hearing my dad now, like, "Quit half-assing everything you're doing right now." Like, whether your homework, I know you're smart, I know you can get ahead, but don't, uh, right? Do do it with integrity,
Mm.
right? Do
Yeah.
do your work good. Um And so, anyways, I'm going back, and I say this to both of my boys, and they always, after like this kind of an emotional exchange that we have, and it's not like, sometimes it can be high volume, but it's high volume on a purpose, not just because I'm flying off a handle. It's more like I need you to hear me right now.
Yes.
Like especially when I do that, phones go down like eyeball to eyeball. Um, my kids would come around. They know how to they'll manage their emotions after the exchange. Go do what I ask them to do, and then they come back up and they go, "You're right. You're right, Dad. I was being like I was being way too whatever it was, and I apologize, and I'm gonna try to work better." They learned that from me.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
learned that from the car rides
Right. That's
of me
good.
saying, "Dad shouldn't have flew off the handle like that. I am sorry. I'm gonna do better. I'm not gonna be perfect, but I'm gonna do better."
Yeah. Ooh, that's
Those are
good.
serendipities right there for me, man, when I hear my kids do that, because I know where that comes from.
That's awesome. And it's what's crazy too, like you were just saying with, you're like, man, I'm here, like I'm hearing my dad right now. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, and even just that model that your dad was for you. And so when your kids are in their 40s, right? It's going to be the same thing. Like, oh gosh, my dad's coming out of me like, I can do better.